Hello and welcome to this new video tutorial of OpenCart Multimedia Marketplace, and in today's video tutorial we'll be showing you how the admin of the OpenCart web store would be able to configure the module in the first place after a successful installation. We will also be covering the parts such as general settings, commissions, products, orders, SEO settings, sell options, profile settings, and some other options as well. So basically this extension converts your single seller OpenCart store into a multi-vendor marketplace store in a jiffy, which is just like the other available marketplaces like Amazon, Etsy, Alibaba and others. So let's get ahead and check what different options does the admin get to configure and what different options are there within the install marketplace module itself. So for that I'll be taking you to the backend section. So wherein the admin would be able to first log into his backend panel, and then we'll be showing you the different configuration settings available for the OpenCart multi-vendor marketplace module. So here I am at the OpenCart web store right now, and what we'll be doing is we'll be logging in as the admin first. So I've entered my credentials, my username and password, and I'll be tapping the login button to get into my backend panel right here. So here you can see that on the left hand side we have this marketplace menu option, and if I tap that up, we have different options to configure here. We have catalog, pro features, mapping, sales, reviews, shipping, mail notifications, information and custom fields. So after you successfully install this particular extension, what you need to do is you need to make some initial configuration settings before we can proceed any further. So for that, what you can do is you can directly tap the configurations sub-menu option on the left hand side under the marketplace menu, or you can also reach to that place by going through extensions, then modules, and then selecting the marketplace and then editing it, and there you have those configuration settings. So to get to that place quickly, we just tap the configurations sub-menu option here, and this brings up the marketplace section wherein we need to configure some initial settings for the module itself. So we'll be going through each of these options one by one, and let's see what different options we have here for the marketplace itself. So here initially the admin can set the marketplace module status as enabled or disabled as per the requirement. So for now we'll be setting it as enabled so that we'll be able to access the marketplace modules options. After that we have the marketplace store, and here what the admin can do is he can select for which OpenCart store does the admin want to do the marketplace configuration from the marketplace store option. So you need to select your store for which you want to do the marketplace configuration, for which you want to do the marketplace configuration. And after that we have a number of tabs here. The primary tab that we have here is the general one. Then we have commission, product, advanced, and similarly the other ones, and all of them are having some options under them, and we need to configure those initially. So under the general settings or the general tab, the very first option that we have is for the admin default mail. So here the admin default mail will be used to send the emails if the admin wants privacy for his store, and the admin can receive all notifications on this particular email. So you need to enter your email address here, and after that we have the upload default image. And for example, if the seller will not upload any of the images, then this particular default image would appear in the profile or the other places for the sellers. So this is the default image for the sellers. After that we have the seller at registration page. So here we can enable or disable this option. So basically using this option, the admin can enable the become seller option for the customers at the registration page. So let me take you to the front end of the web store, and let me show you where exactly this would be visible. So at the front end, we have the section wherein after we have enabled this option for the customers to apply for becoming a seller, then a become seller option would be there on the registration page at the web store front end, and a customer can choose to become a seller by choosing the option as a yes, and can thereafter enter the shop name and continue further for the registration purposes. So that was about the seller at registration page. After that, we have the approve seller automatically. So using this option, the admin don't have to approve the sellers manually. If the admin will enable this option, then the customers will become the sellers automatically. So if you have enabled it, then the sellers would be approved automatically. Otherwise, the admin would have to manually approve each of the sellers there. After that, we have approve product automatic. So this is also similar to the above option. So if the admin will enable this option, then the products would be auto approved and vice versa. So for disabled, the admin will have to manually approve each of the products that have been added by the sellers under their own account panel. Then we have the approve category automatically. We have a enable or disable option for this as well. So the product categories would be approved automatically if you have chosen this option is enabled. Otherwise, the admin would have to approve each of the categories that have been added by the sellers under their own account panel. And then we have the approve information automatic. So for this option also, we have an enable or disable option, and the information that would be added by the sellers would be approved automatically. And if this option is enabled is disabled, then the information that the sellers would have added under their own account panel would be manually like approved by the admin. Then we have the option seller can edit, delete, review. So basically, if the admin would choose this option as enabled, then the sellers would be able to edit and delete the review and vice versa. So whatever the reviews have been posted by the customers for the respective sellers, the sellers would be able to edit or delete any of those reviews by themselves. So after that, we have customer can contact sellers. So basically, if enabled, then the customers can contact the sellers. Otherwise, they won't be able to contact the sellers. Then seller name in the cart. So if this option is enabled by the admin, then the customers would be able to see the seller's name within the product, with the product in the cart itself. So if it's enabled, then in the cart the customers can see the particular seller's name whose product has been added to the cart. Then we have mail to admin if customer contacts seller. So we have an enable or disable option for this as well. So whenever a customer would contact the seller, same mail would be sent out to the admin. So that would allow the admin to know that the customer has contacted the seller. Then we have the separate seller panel or the separate panel for sellers. We also have an enable or disable option for this. So if this option is enabled by the admin, then the sellers would have an option to choose the separate vendor panel. Otherwise, if selected as disabled, then the sellers would not be able to select the separate seller dashboard for the OpenCart marketplace sellers. So separate panel for sellers enabled, they'll be able to select their separate panel. Otherwise, they'll be using the default one. Then we have the notification filter, and here the admin would be able to choose from different options that we have. So the admin can select the order status for the notification filters basically, and only the selected order status would be available to filter the notifications. So whatever options that you have selected here, for them only the notification filter would be available. So this was about the general settings. Now let's go to the commission section, and here the admin will be able to set up the commission for the marketplace itself. So the admin can manage how the commissions would be charged to the seller's products, and the admin has the option to select fixed commission, commission on category, and commission on subcategories as well. In case the admin has selected all commission types, then only one commission is applied to purchase according to the priority that has been set or selected by the admin. So, so the first option that we have here is the seller fixed commission. So here the admin can set it in percentage, we have set it as 10%. So basically, when the customer becomes a seller, at that time this is the default commission that would apply to the particular or the respective seller. After that, we have the commission applied on unit price. So this can be enabled or disabled by the admin as required. And for this option, for this option, if the admin has chosen it as enabled, then the admin would charge commission on the product price. For example, if the product price is $100 and the commission is set to 10% as we set up here, then the customer will be paying $110. The admin would get the $10 and the seller would be getting $100. So it can be set up as required by the admin. So this commission is applied on the unit price of the product. Then we have calculate commission on tax. Now, after enabling this option, the admin can now, or the admin's commission basically would be calculated on the product's unit price. So if the admin has set the calculate commission on tax as enabled, then the admin's commission would be calculated on the product's unit price. Then we have commission worked on all categories. So if this checkbox is checked, then the commission would be the sum of all category commission related to the particular product. So that was for the commission worked on all categories. Then we have category commission is based on. So here you can select the categories for category commission, whether you want to have it on the main category or the subcategories, what we call as the child category. So accordingly you can check the options to set the category commission based on. Lastly, we have the select commission priority. So set the commission. Here the admin will be able to set the commission priority, and according to this priority the commission would be applicable. So you can just shift any of these options here, whether you want the category to be at the top end, or whether you want the fixed commission, or whether you want the category child commission to be as the priority for applying the commission to the products there. So that was about the commission section. Then we have the product tab, and under the product tab we have different options to configure for the products basically. And here the first option is seller product store. So the admin can choose the seller product store. So here whichever store the admin has chosen for the seller would be able to add their products within that particular store only. So if we have chosen it as the basic store, then the sellers would only be able to add their products within that particular store. Then we have the auto generate SKU and meta description. This can be enabled or disabled. If this option is enabled basically, then the SKU will be product's model and meta description will be the product's name if the seller does not add these fields at the time of adding the products. So whatever has been set here would be the default for the sellers if for example they fail to add these two details. Then we have the low stock notification, and we can enable or disable the low stock notification. If this option is enabled, then a notification mail would be sent out to the sellers for the low stock of their products. So whenever there is a low stock for the products for the respective sellers, the sellers would be receiving a low stock notification mail. And after that, the admin can set up the low stock quantity. So the whatever quantity the admin has set, and whenever it is equal or less than the quantity, then the low stock notification mail goes out to the seller. So we have set it as 5 for the low stock notification. After that, we have the allowed product fields. So here the admin can select the different product fields that would be available for the sellers while the sellers are creating their products under their own account panel. So these options would be available to the sellers while they are editing or editing a product under their own account panel. Then the allowed product tabs option is there. So here the admin would select the tabs that the admin wants to enable for the sellers, and these tabs would be available under the respective sellers account panel for the products. Then we have the product category required for seller. So we can choose it as enabled or disabled for the product category required for seller. So if we have chosen this option as enabled, so then the seller would be able to select or add categories while adding or editing a product. So if we have enabled this, then the sellers would be able to add categories under their own account panel while they are trying to add or edit their products. Then we have the allowed categories for all sellers, whether you want to set it as all categories or you want to select some particular categories only and you want to enable them for the sellers. So if you're choosing the selected categories, you can type in the names of the categories. You can add them up. For example, we have added clothes and electronics. So these two categories would only be available to the sellers while they are adding their products on their own account panel. And if you want to choose as all categories, then the sellers would be able to add their products under all the categories that are available under your web store. After that, we have the allowed number of images. So here the admin would be able to set up the total number of images that can be uploaded by each of the sellers within your marketplace store. And then we have the allowed image extensions. Here you can type in the extensions separated by a comma, and only the entered or the added image extensions would be available for the sellers while they're uploading their images. So all of the images that they would be adding should be of the JPEG, PNG or JPG format. So you can set up a limit for the different image extensions that can be used for editing the images within the marketplace store. You can also set up the max image size for the sellers to you can also set up the maximum downloadable file size. So you can set up the the maximum file size for the sellers, and this is in kilobytes. So you can set up accordingly the size of the downloadable file that the sellers would be able to add under their own account panel. Then we have the admin receive email after product add. We can enable or disable this option. So if you enable this option, then the admin would receive an email whenever a seller adds a product under their own account panel. So whenever a seller adds a product, the admin receives an email for the same. You can choose to enable or disable this option as required. Then we have disapprove on edit. So when this option is basically enabled, and then whenever a seller edits his product, while the auto approval is disabled, then the product will get disabled from the store. So disapprove on edit. So if you have enabled it, then whenever a seller edits his product, while we have set up the auto approval as disabled, then the product would be disabled from the store itself. Then we have the seller delete product from store. We have an enable or a disable option to choose for this particular option. So after enabling this option, whenever a seller deletes a product from his store, the product is also removed from the admin store as well. So while the seller has deleted his product, the product would also be removed out from the admin's marketplace store. Then we have the product delete after seller delete. So if this option is enabled, then all of the products of the disabled seller will be shown at the web store front end. Otherwise, the products will not show at the front end if chosen as disabled. Then we have the product show after seller disabled. So after that, we have the sellers can buy their product. So if we enable this option, then we can allow the sellers to buy their own products. Otherwise, we can choose it as disabled to not allow the sellers to buy their own product. So if enabled, the sellers can buy their own product. Otherwise, they won't be able to do the same. So that was about the product tab. That was much about the configuration settings for this particular tutorial today, and I hope it helped you out to configure the general settings, the commission, and the product tab. So in the coming videos, we'll be talking about the rest of the sections or the tabs that we have left out for the admin, and we'll be showing you how the admin will also be able to configure the other marketplace options that we have within the OpenCart Multimedia Marketplace module. So thanks for watching this video, and have a great day ahead.